You have heard that Father Cardinal mentioned in the beginning of his presentation the statement of Pope Francis that business is a vocation and a noble vocation. It sounds even better in English than in Slovakian. Noble vocation. However, the market we do business in is not ideal. Even the Slovakian market is significantly distorted. And bribery is one of the distortions, corruption. In the beginning, I will ask hard questions. I would like to ask Rolando Medeiros whether he has come across corruption, and if so, what did he do and how much did it cost him? I don't mean the amount of the bribe he gave.
Can you hear me? I think so. Yes. Well, Joseph, thank you for such an easy question. And it's really easy because, yes, we are a global company and we have seen many governments, many officials, many people, many of our competitors that are involved in corrupt acts. So that's a factor of doing business in the world. However, my company has never get involved in corruption. Never. And let me be very clear on this. Corruption is like a very addictive dope. Once you try it, you cannot stop it. So my advice to everybody here will be never start accepting an offering that is corrupt. As soon as you do it, you are in the hands of corruption. And there are things that you have to do before you are offered one of these briberies or any other type of corruption. I think that is very important for the company to conduct the business ethically. That's extremely important. But it's also extremely important to behave and to be seen as acting ethically. I think that you need to develop a reputation that you conduct the business ethically. If you have that reputation, many of these corrupt officials will never approach you. And I think that if you are not approached by corrupt people, that's your best option. However, if you are approached and you are offered to participate in corruption and you say no, yes, you may lose that business opportunity. But I am convinced that that is really a very short-term opportunity. If you do not accept a corrupt act, you are going to gain in the long run. It's not an immediate return, but your image will be improved. By having a better image, everybody in the global market will respect you much more than before. You will also send a very strong message to your own people. We are really serious in this company to behave ethically. And when you have a group of employees that really believe that you are serious about it, what you end up having is a much better company. You end up having much better employees, loyal, committed, motivated. And let me tell you, motivated and committed employees are not only a key factor for a better company, but they will also help you to be a much more profitable company. So over the long term, not accepting a corrupt act has a lot of benefits. And those are some of the few benefits I can just think about right now. So thank you, Joseph, for a very easy question to be answered.
Father Cardinal travels across many countries. He has met many business people on various occasions. I would like to ask him, what moral problems are faced by the business people all over the world? What are the common moral problems all of them face? Or in some countries they have their country-specific problems. Is there a common moral problem they need to face when they want to become decent and ethical business persons?
Thank you. It is true we travel quite a bit, but I don't think we've not yet done a survey of the problems that business people face around the world. I can tell you about a few which are brought to my attention. In September, we were in Chile, Santiago. We met about 600 people like you, business people in a room, and we talked about the same thing. There, the same thing comes up, the issue of corruption, unfair trade arrangements, the issue of export and import duties which are charged becomes a problem that can affect the industry. And of course, a certain amount of local stability. Okay, when there's not local stability, in the case of the places in Latin America, we're talking about a lot of guerrilla military, whatever attacks, so that kind of thing. So let me attempt briefly, because you asked to put them all together. For any business to feel really comfortable in a place, it requires the rule of law. That must be basic. All investors, wherever they go, are looking for rule of law. Rule of law means that any business that goes any place knows that it can repatriate its funds, sends them, and if there's any case, it can hold people to the contract that they have signed. So rule of law is very basic. Then a certain amount of political stability is also very important. Nobody also goes to do business in a place where politically the stuff is not secure. Then, of course, the question of security and peace is also an issue that a lot of people also face and talk about. Now, all of these are from the point of view of the investor. There are also challenges from the point of view of the local community, which is also receiving the business. There, a lot of the third world countries are encouraged to develop investor-friendly climate. Investor-friendly climate means that you lower, the regulations that must be met. You allow easy repatriation of wealth. You also do not make a lot of demands on the business that come. So those type of investor-friendly conditions sometimes kill local industry. So the challenges I see on both sides. For investors going into a country, the thing about rule of law, security, political stability, and all of that become crucial for them. But for the local group, the thing about investor-friendly countries should not put them at the mercy of the big companies that are coming in. This will be the two challenging conditions that we face.
Another phenomenon that we encounter in Slovakia is not paying. The producer produces something, however, he does not get paid, for example. How do you prevent such situations, Rolando?
Okay, well, that's a much easier question, so no problem at all. Well, yes, to be a global company is a very fancy thing. Everybody will tap your shoulder because you're a global company. But to be a global company has many, many risks. And the financial risk of not being paid is one of them. However, I think that us as business leaders do have the responsibility to know our customers really well. And we need to be accountable for that. So we need to really assess very well the creditworthiness of our customers before we close a transaction. If the customer is worth of credit, great, we grant credit. But if it is not worth of credit, there are many other ways of doing business with such a customer. We may require the customer to pay in advance. We may use letters of credit. We may use a bank in the country where our customer is located, and we may negotiate with the bank a guarantee, or we may transfer the risk, or we may get an insurance on the accounts payable, or many other mechanisms. However, doing business all over the world means additional risks, but also additional responsibilities. And one responsibility is what I mentioned. You have to know your customer. You need to understand and be sure about his needs, his expectations, but also his ability to pay you what the customer owes you. So I think that this is more than anything else a preventive measure than trying on the milk that is already on the floor.
Form the correct business behavior on the market? Is it the government, or is it the task of a personal moral principles of a businessman?
I think it's both, and you can include also the church. Okay, it's not only government, it's not only the individual. There's also the church and probably civil society organizations, all in their community. All of them are involved in the process of educating the citizenry in proper moral conduct. The government has a role to play, because to the government belongs the duty of keeping order and fairness within the community. Therefore, it is in the interest of the government that citizens in the country act fairly, are law-abiding, and are morally respectful in their conduct. So in that sense, the government is interested in ensuring that people, citizens, would act morally, with fairness and all. It is also the duty of the church, okay, to also enforce this as part of its own evangelization. Part of the task of the church in evangelizing is also providing people with a framework of thinking which makes them always think about the demands of the gospel, heavenly kingdom, in terms of the present. So the church also has a duty in forming moral consciences and moral minds. And then finally, there are other components in society, civil society groups, NGOs, and other segments of society, all of whom stand to benefit from a morally conscious society, and therefore also can contribute to it. So the individual himself, of course, for his own salvation, for his own whatever, also needs to be morally correct. Okay, he must develop himself morally and all of that. But if our moral conduct is what ensures fairness and social justice, then all of us need this. The state must contribute, the church must contribute, individuals must train themselves accordingly, and other civil society groups must contribute towards the morality which leads to the experience of social justice in the community in which we live.
Yeah, if I may add to this, I think of do both things, talking about compliance and avoiding corruption, and talking about what are the moral principles of the individual, then I think that I want to add another idea, and this is the idea of it's not enough to have laws, you need some enforcement. Yeah? So you have to bring laws also that they are obeyed and that people keep the laws. Yeah? Looking to what you have said about corruption, and I fully agree, because I had the grace to be a chief compliance officer for 2 years in my professional life. And yes, the moral approach is that you say, well, please stay clean, yeah? However, how can you stay clean if you see that all your environment is not working like this? And looking back to Europe 20 or 30 years, nobody had the idea that you can make business in the so-called third world countries without bribery. And coming now here and thinking about the last 20 years about the ideas of Transparency International, you can see that the international business life has changed. And this is because belief and attitude has changed. However, it's not enough to change belief and attitude. You have also to enforce the law. And it's the same, I think, about the moral principle. Yes, we can say that we want an individual to behave in a moral way. That's good. However, how can he or she do it if all the people around are doing good business, not obeying to the rules? So this won't work. So yes, the law must be in the framework which is set by the government and or the church. However, it's necessary to put it also into power and to act against people who are not obeying.